Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. Let me just start by saying that my dad, Kenneth, or as people call him, Kenny, 55 male, has never been the kind of guy to really think things through. He has always been impulsive, making choices based on what seems fun at the time, and totally overlooking any future fallout. My mom, Monica, 53 female, divorced him a decade ago, and honestly, no one was surprised. About 2 years ago, my dad married Willow, 26 female. Yes, 26. For context, I am 30 female, the same age as my husband, Charles, 30 male. As you can imagine, the whole situation is awkward to say the least. I do not have anything against Willow personally. I actually just feel sorry for her. She is polite and sweet, and honestly, she is way in over her head with my dad. She does not seem to realize what she has signed up for. It is hard not to feel a little second-hand embarrassment for her, because my dad is trying so hard to act her age that it is borderline cringeworthy. He dresses like a teenager, constantly talks about ongoing social media trends, and uses some Gen Z or Gen Alpha slang. I do not know which one it is, and he clearly does not understand any of it. He keeps bragging about how young and cool he is, but let us be honest. He is a 55-year-old man trying to relive his youth through his wife. Oh, and no, she is not a gold digger. There is no gold that can be dug. So it seems like she actually loves my dad. Anyway, here is some backstory that would probably help you understand him. My dad was an okay father when I was growing up. He was funny, laid back, and the type to let me eat junk food for dinner when mom was not looking. There were moments when I genuinely enjoyed being around him. But as a husband, that is where everything fell apart. He was terrible. Their marriage was a slow-motion train wreck, and growing up in the middle of it was not easy. The argument started when I was about 7 or 8. At first, they were over small things like forgotten bills, or whose turn it was to pick me up from school. But as I got older, I realized those fights were just the surface. The deeper issues had been simmering for years. My dad was impulsive and irresponsible with money. He would spend hundreds, sometimes thousands, on unnecessary things like fancy gadgets or hobbies he quickly abandoned. One year he bought a boat, claiming it was a great investment for family trips. We did not live near a lake or ocean, so it just sat in the driveway for years until he sold it for a fraction of the cost. Meanwhile, my mom was left scrambling to cover the bills, balance the checkbook, and figure out how to stretch the grocery budget after one of his spending sprees. My dad had a gambling problem that really drove my mom crazy. He would spend money we did not have, thinking he could win it back, but he usually lost more than he won. There were nights he had come home with nothing or worse, borrowed money to cover his losses. My mom would get so upset because she had to handle everything while he kept gambling. It added so much stress to our family, and eventually it became too much for her to deal with. His gambling was just another way he made things harder for us. Money was not the only issue. My dad had a wandering eye, and infidelity was a theme in their marriage. He was not discreet. There were late-night calls he claimed were work, flirty texts my mom found, and unnecessary business trips. When she confronted him, he denied it and made her feel like she was overreacting. She stayed, I think, to protect me, but it came at the cost of her own happiness. Beyond money and cheating, my dad also had a habit of shutting down emotionally. Anytime my mom tried to have a serious conversation about their problems, he deflected with jokes, changed the subject, or walked away. He avoided accountability and preferred to sweep things under the rug instead of addressing them. My mom, desperate to make their marriage work, tried everything. By the time I was in college, it was clear to everyone except my dad that their marriage was over. The final straw came when my mom found explicit emails between my dad and a woman he had met at the gym. When she confronted him, he did not apologize. He just shrugged and said, "What do you want me to do? I cannot change who I am." That was it for her. She packed her bags, filed for divorce, and never looked back. The divorce was as messy as their marriage had been. My dad tried to paint himself as the victim, claiming my mom was cold and unsupportive. But everyone knew the truth. My mom had held everything together while my dad acted like a reckless teenager. Anyway, this story begins with my wedding, which was last month. Charles and I have been together for 6 years, and we finally got married after a long engagement. About 3 weeks before my wedding, my dad called me up and said he had a special request. At first, I assumed it was something simple. Maybe he wanted to dance with me, or for me to give a toast. But no, it was something far more ridiculous. He wanted me to introduce Willow as my mother during the reception. I thought he was joking at first, and even laughed. But no, he was completely serious. He explained that it would make Willow feel welcomed and respected as part of the family, and that it was the least I could do to show my support for their marriage. He went on about how important it was for Willow to feel accepted, especially since she was so much younger than me. As if that was not enough, he then said, "It'll be good optics for you too." Whatever that meant. He actually said that in a tone like I was supposed to be grateful for this opportunity. I was floored. He was asking me to pretend Willow was my mother to put on some kind of performance for the guests at my own wedding. The whole thing felt bizarre, like he was trying to force a narrative where everything was perfectly normal, when in reality it was anything but. I could not understand why he thought I would go along with this. He was not asking for a gesture of kindness or a small favor. He was asking me to completely rewrite history for the sake of his image. It was beyond disrespectful to both me and my mom. The nerve of it was astonishing, and I felt a wave of secondhand embarrassment for Willow. She was, after all, a grown adult who could easily navigate being a part of the family without me needing to make her some kind of stand-in for my mother. I explained all of this to him calmly at first, but he did not take it well. He accused me of being jealous of Willow, which is ridiculous. What would I have to be jealous of? He also said that I was being petty and that I should put my feelings aside for his sake. I told him flat out that I would not do it, and warned him that if he tried to push this at the wedding, it was going to backfire spectacularly. I know my dad and I know how people in our family feel about his marriage to Willow. They are polite to her face, but behind closed doors, they think it is weird and kind of sad. I tried to make him see reason, but as usual, he did not listen. The wedding day came, and everything seemed perfect at first. My mom looked amazing. Charles was so excited, and I felt so happy. But then my dad went off script. During his speech, he forgot what we had planned and started talking a lot about Willow. He called her the most wonderful mother figure in my life, and even joked about how lucky I was to have 2 moms now. I could feel the room freeze. My mom was completely shocked. Charles gave me a nervous side eye, and my bridesmaids exchanged looks of disbelief. The whole thing was so awkward, I wanted to crawl under the table. The real chaos started later in the evening. My dad, in his misguided enthusiasm, began introducing Willow to my friends and family as my daughter's new mom. To say it did not go well would be an understatement. One of my childhood friends, who has known me since kindergarten, actually laughed out loud when he said it, thinking it was a joke. When she realized he was serious, she gave him a bewildered look and just walked away. My aunt, my mom's sister, did not even try to hide her frustration. She muttered, "Is he for real?" before turning her back on him. It was embarrassing, but I could not help feeling some relief that my guests shared my discomfort. By the end of the night, I overheard several guests whispering about the absurdity of it all. One person called Willow my dad's midlife crisis in a dress, and another joked that she should have been the flower girl instead of my new mom. It was mortifying. Everyone could see through it, and no one was shy about making fun of it. Willow looked really uncomfortable the whole time. Every time my dad introduced her as my new mom, I could see her forcing a smile, but her face looked tense. She kept giving him quick looks like she was trying to tell him to stop, but he did not seem to notice, or just did not care. A few times she leaned over to whisper something to him, probably asking him to stop, but he just waved her off. I actually heard him saying something like, "I'm doing this for your good. Just play along." He told her to be quiet and let him handle it. But it was clear she did not agree. She kept shifting in her seat and smiling, but you could tell she was uncomfortable. She seemed trapped in a situation she did not want to be in. Watching her, I felt bad. She did not ask for this, and she did not deserve to be in the middle of it. It was obvious she was just trying to be polite, but she was not okay with what was happening. I wished my dad would stop making it harder for her. The whole situation felt like a circus with my dad at the center of it all, and I do not feel bad for him. He had created this mess, and he had no one to blame but himself. I was not surprised, but my dad was furious. He cornered me during the reception and accused me of turning everyone against him and Willow. He said I would set him up to fail by not preparing people for this narrative ahead of time. I reminded him that I explicitly warned him not to do this because it would end badly. I told him that if he wanted to save face, he should have just introduced Willow as his wife and left it at that. But he refused to take any responsibility. According to him, I was being selfish for not standing up for them. Now, weeks later, my dad is still sulking. He is upset that people are gossiping about him and that the jokes have spread to his social circle. Apparently, someone at his golf club called him Father Time and asked if Willow was his babysitter. He says I humiliated him and Willow and that I owe them both an apology. But honestly, I do not feel bad for him at all. I warned him. I told him exactly how this would play out if he tried to force this bizarre new mom narrative. He ignored me, and now he is dealing with the consequences. I feel bad for Willow to an extent, because I do not think she fully understands what she has gotten herself into. But as for my dad, he brought this on himself. I spent years trying to be patient with him, but at this point, I am done. If he wants to play the victim, that is his problem, not mine. So, am I an a-hole for refusing to introduce my dad's 26-year-old wife as my mother at my wedding and not feeling sorry for him now that his plan backfired? Not the a-hole. OP's dad humiliated himself by trying to turn OP's wedding into some kind of redemption show for his fragile ego. Asking OP to pretend that his 26-year-old wife is OP's mom was disrespectful not only to OP but also to OP's real mother, who's clearly been through enough already. OP gave him multiple chances to stop, and he ignored every warning because he wanted to control the narrative. Honestly, this sounds like a man desperate to be seen as cool and modern, but instead, he made himself a punchline. OP set boundaries and handled it with more maturity than he deserved. And now let's hear community's opinion. Everyone sucks here, except Willow. Your dad is a walking midlife crisis who clearly hasn't grown up, but I'll be honest, I do feel sorry for Willow. She didn't ask to be put in this situation. Being pushed as a mother figure to someone her own age is just humiliating. She probably thought she was marrying a fun, charming older guy, but instead, she's stuck cleaning up his public messes. You were right to refuse, but maybe go easy on her. She seems like a victim of your dad's constant need for validation. She's probably realizing now that she's in way over her head, not the a-hole. Your father's behavior is beyond delusional. Forcing you to rewrite history at your own wedding, just so he can feel young and respected, is manipulative and self-centered. You warned him it would backfire, and it did. What's worse is that he humiliated Willow too. She didn't deserve to be paraded around like a PR stunt. It's wild that he's still trying to guilt-trip you over this instead of reflecting on how inappropriate the whole thing was. You did nothing wrong by standing your ground, and if anything, you spared everyone more embarrassment by refusing to play along. Not the a-hole, and your dad needs therapy, not Instagram. Your dad's obsession with image and influencer life at his age is honestly sad. 108 followers don't make you famous, and it's bizarre that he expects his daughter to manage his public relations after he humiliated you at your own wedding. He's not looking for accountability. He's looking for someone to clean up the fallout from his own choices. You owe him absolutely nothing. The best thing you can do is protect your peace and keep your distance, because people like him never take responsibility. Willow probably needs therapy too, but your dad, he needs a full digital detox and a serious wake-up call. Update 1. Okay, I am just going to start by saying this whole situation is beyond frustrating, and I really need some outside opinions on whether I am being too harsh or if my dad is just completely out of touch with reality. A few days ago, things got even more intense. My dad suddenly texts me asking for a favor. He wants me to share an Instagram story saying that people should stop bothering him because he has not done anything wrong and does not deserve all the negativity. At first, I thought he was joking again. But no, he was serious. He said that people were talking behind his back and making fun of him, and that it would really help him if I posted a story to clear things up. I told him flat out that he was being ridiculous. I told him that the reason people were making fun of him was not just because of his age gap with Willow, but because he has been acting so out of touch with reality and forcing this weird narrative that Willow is somehow my mother. I told him that no, I was not going to post a story defending him because I do not agree with what he did at the wedding, and it is not something I can just ignore. It was disrespectful to my mom, to me, and to Willow. Instead of taking any responsibility for his actions, my dad started guilt-tripping me into posting the story. He went on and on about how he provided for me when I was younger and how I owe him for everything he did for me. Honestly, this really ticked me off. Let us be real, he did not do anything extraordinary. Yes, he worked to support us, but he was also the one who caused so many problems in our family with his irresponsible behavior. It was my mom who had to pick up the pieces, manage the finances, and make sure everything was running smoothly while he was off doing whatever he wanted. Whether it was spending money on things we did not need or being unfaithful. Oh, and he did earn the money, but we never got to see it because he was always busy wasting it. But whatever. I guess he thought pulling the "I'm your dad, you owe me" card was going to work. It felt manipulative, and it made me even more upset. The reality is that he did not do anything that deserves a special favor, especially when he is acting so out of touch with reality now. I understand that he might be feeling insecure or trying to make sense of his new life, but that does not mean he cannot take responsibility for how awkward and inappropriate the situation with Willow was. His attempt to guilt-trip me just made everything worse. And it is hard to take him seriously when he is acting like a cool influencer with his 108 followers, pretending like he is still in his 20s. I told him again that I was not going to do it. The fact that he kept pushing the idea that Willow could somehow be my mother was so wrong, especially when my real mom was right there. Willow and I are close in age, and she is not my mom. It is that simple. That is when he completely flipped out. He started screaming at me, saying that I was too caught up in my own world and that I didn't understand how hard it was for him to be married to someone so much younger. He even accused me of being ungrateful for everything he did for me, which was just mind-blowing. We were getting nowhere in this conversation, so I asked him why he specifically wanted me to post something on Instagram. I assumed it was some kind of private thing, but nope. He told me that it was because he is now an influencer and his reputation matters a lot. At this point, I could barely contain my frustration. He has 108 followers on Instagram, that is it. 108. I do not know why he thinks he has any sort of reputation to protect, but I was not about to entertain this ridiculous conversation any longer. I ended the call, and to be honest, I felt a huge sense of relief, but it did not stop there. Since I hung up, he has been bombarding me with texts and calls. I have not blocked him, but I did mute him because I really do not need the constant stress. Every few hours, I get another message telling me how wrong I am, how I am hurting him, and how he is just trying to do right by Willow. Honestly, I am so over it. I do not want to deal with him right now, and I do not think I'm being unreasonable. I've been trying to keep my distance and not get drawn back into his drama, but at the same time, part of me feels guilty. I am wondering if I am being too harsh. Maybe I should just let it go and post the stupid story to get him off my back. But then again, everything he is asking me to do is totally out of line. The more I think about it, the more I feel like he is just living in this fantasy world where he thinks he is some kind of cool influencer. It is embarrassing. Am I being insensitive, or is my dad's whole trying to be a cool youngster influencer thing just completely ridiculous? Update 2. It has been a while since I last updated anyone on what has been going on. A lot has happened, and unfortunately it is not exactly good news. To start with, Willow is pregnant with twins. Yes, twins. And I am about to have siblings. I am almost 31. Amazing stuff. It is weird to think that my dad, the same man who caused so much chaos in our family, is going to have kids with someone so much younger than me. I try to get excited for Willow, but it is hard when I know what she is getting herself into. My dad has fallen back into his old ways, and it is really frustrating. He is gambling again just like he did in the past. It feels like this never-ending cycle. He is back to spending money he cannot afford, losing way more than he ever wins, and it is putting a lot of stress on everyone around him. I keep thinking about how Willow is handling all of this, especially now that she is pregnant with twins, but it gets worse. Willow caught him cheating on her 3 times. Yes, 3. And what is worse is that she keeps forgiving him. I do not know why she is putting up with this. Maybe she is hoping things will change, or maybe she feels trapped. I honestly cannot understand it, but there she is still trying to make it work despite everything he is doing. It is heartbreaking to watch. It was especially eye-opening when Willow texted my mom. I cannot imagine how desperate she must have been to reach out to my mom for advice on how to deal with my dad. Of course, my mom was honest with her. She told Willow she could not help her because she left Dad for all of the same reasons Willow is going through now. Mom told Willow she should not make the same mistake that she did and that she should not stick around hoping things would get better when they did not. It is hard to hear my mom say that because I know how much it hurt her to leave. But at the same time, I think she is right. Willow should not have to deal with this. She deserves better than a man who is constantly breaking her trust, ignoring her feelings, and making excuses for his behavior. I feel terrible for Willow. She did not deserve any of this. She is going through so much right now, and she definitely does not deserve it. Being pregnant with twins should be a happy time, but instead, she is stuck with a guy who seems completely indifferent to her and her feelings. I know she is holding on to some hope that things might improve, but honestly, it does not look promising. My dad has not changed at all, and I doubt he ever will. He is all about himself, and the sooner Willow sees that, the better off she will be. Willow really believes she can change him, or that this time might be different. But honestly, my dad has proven time and again who he really is. He is selfish, careless, and has zero interest in owning up to what he does. He is blowing through the family's money on gambling, cheating on his wife, and acting like he is still in his 20s, thinking that being young and cool will erase all his screw-ups. It is super frustrating, especially watching Willow suffer quietly through all of this. I feel so torn in this situation. On one hand, I want to help Willow. I want to step in and tell her to leave him. But at the same time, I know she has to make that decision for herself. She has to come to terms with the reality that my dad is not going to change, and that this cycle will keep repeating itself unless she does something about it. I want to support her, but I also do not want to push her to make a decision for which she is not ready. For now, all I can do is listen and offer my support when she needs it. I cannot fix this, but I can be there for her. It is hard to watch her go through this. I just hope she finds the strength to do what is best for herself and the twins, even if it means walking away from my dad for good. Update 3. Willow is 36 weeks pregnant, and things have taken another dramatic turn. My dad has managed to cheat on her again. This time, though, she is done. She has decided to file for divorce, and honestly, I feel relieved for her. It's not easy to walk away, especially when you are about to have kids. On top of that, she is having twins, but I am glad she is putting herself and her children first. In typical fashion, my dad could not handle things calmly. Instead, he started bothering me non-stop. He called me over 20 times in one day. I ignored all of his calls, thinking he would eventually give up, but of course he did not. When I did not answer, he decided to take it further. He started calling my office, disturbing my work, and then calling my husband. He even went as far as calling my husband's office. It was getting out of hand. It was overwhelming and frustrating to deal with all of this, especially when I had other things to focus on. I realized ignoring him was not going to make him stop. I finally decided to call him back, mainly to tell him to leave me alone. I also wanted to make it clear that I was cutting ties with him for good. I did not want to talk to him, but I knew I had no choice. He had no right to drag me, my work, or my husband's work into his mess just because he did not want to face the consequences of his actions. I was done with his games. I finally decided to call him back, planning to tell him that I was cutting ties with him for good. But before I could even speak, he launched into one of his rants. He tried to blame me for his marriage falling apart, saying it was because I did not let Willow take my mom's place in my life. The audacity of that claim was unbelievable. What is worse, he had no idea that I already knew about his cheating, so he thought he could pin this all on me. I did not hold back. I told him I was proud of Willow for leaving him, and that if he wanted to fight her in court, I would gladly stand by her side. I also reminded him that everyone knew about his behavior, so no one would take his side. That shut him up pretty quickly. Before ending the call, I made it clear that I was done with him. I told him that if he kept bothering me, my husband, or anyone else in my life, I would file a restraining order. After that, I hung up, but my dad was not done creating drama. Later that day, a childhood friend sent me a video he had posted online. In it, he was rambling about how my mom, and Willow had ruined his life. He claimed he started gambling because he had no other way to make money, which is ridiculous. Then he accused Willow of being abusive and said she got pregnant to trap him. It was all lies, but he seemed to think people would believe him. He did not seem to realize that the majority of his followers were family members or longtime friends. They knew who he was, and they were not buying his act. The comments on his video were brutal. People called him out on his lies, and by the end of the day, he had lost all 108 of his followers. Now, my dad is completely isolated. Most of the family has cut him off, and even his friends want nothing to do with him. He has no one left, and with twins on the way, he is going to have to figure out how to pay child support. If he does not, he will find himself in legal trouble. Meanwhile, Willow reached out to me. She asked if I would be willing to stay in touch, especially since her kids will be my half-siblings. I told her I would love to. I want to be part of her and the twins' lives. She has been through so much with my dad, more than anyone should have to go through, and she deserves all the support she can get. I told her she does not have to face this alone. Raising twins as a single mom is no small task, and I want her to know I will be there for her in whatever way I can, whether that is babysitting, someone to talk to, or just being there as a sister figure for her kids. We may not have started on the best terms, but I respect her for making the tough decision to leave my dad and prioritize her and her baby's well-being. It is strange how quickly things have changed. My dad used to have everything: a family, a second chance with Willow, and now 2 more kids on the way. He had the chance to fix things, to make up for his past mistakes, but he chose to throw it all away with his selfish actions. It is hard to feel sorry for him when he did this to himself. Looking at the mess he has made, it is frustrating. He had so many chances to make things right, especially with Willow. But instead of trying, he kept lying, cheating, and gambling, pushing everyone away who wanted to help. The worst part is that he still does not seem to understand. He is still blaming others for his problems and will not take responsibility for what he has done. I cannot stop thinking about the future, about the 2 babies that are coming into all this mess. They deserve better than what their dad can give them. Willow deserves so much more than this toxic relationship, and those kids should not have to grow up with a dad who does not know how to be responsible. It is hard to believe how quickly everything has fallen apart and how little he seems to care about fixing any of it. I do not feel bad about cutting ties with him. He has been terrible to his family for years. He is finally dealing with the consequences of what he did, and no one is left to help him. My mom is really happy for Willow and thinks she is very brave. She knows how hard it was for Willow to leave my dad, but she is proud of her for doing it. After everything my dad put her through, Mom believes she deserves better. So that's where things stand now. My dad is out of the picture, and Willow is preparing to welcome the twins. I am looking forward to meeting my new half-siblings and being there for them as they grow up.